Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's live. I'm excited to have you here for another amazing conversation with one of our Women Thrive speakers. If we haven't met yet, my name is Raymonda, and I'm the founder of the Women Thrive Summit that is coming up in March. In today's conversation, we'll be talking about how to rediscover yourself after trauma and actually become the woman that you have always been. Today, I have a special guest, trauma therapist, Helen Ferguson. Hi, Helen.
Hello, Raymonda. It's fabulous to be here, and hello to everybody watching.
I'm very excited about this conversation because I do know that it's a real struggle for people who have experienced trauma or have been through trauma or haven't even worked through their traumas yet, because it can be really daunting place to be and a challenging thing to face on your own. So in today's conversation, we will be talking about how to get over trauma and really become the person that you've always been, but perhaps have been just hiding in the shadows. And if you're watching this right now live or on replay, I want you to leave a comment below, introduce yourself, let us know where in the world you are. And also, I'd love for you to share it. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, do make sure you hit that share button with the world. So just a little bit about Helen. So if you haven't met Helen yet, Helen is a trauma specialist, specialist trauma therapist. She has been clinical expert in childhood trauma, CPST, TD, and sexual abuse recovery for 24 years. As a psychotherapist and expert in trauma healing, Helen guides entrepreneurial women to emotional and physical freedom from trauma holding them back from embodying their true selves in their business and relationships. So Helen, welcome today.
Oh, it's fantastic to be here. Well, and what a nice welcome. What a nice welcome. And hearing myself back in that bio is always fascinating. It's always fascinating to hear my journey from somebody else's perspective too.
Yeah, certainly. And you have had quite a journey of getting to where you are today. So how long have you been doing this type of work now?
I've been a specialist trauma therapist for 24 years. And I originally started my work with children who'd been abused and traumatized, and then found that the parents, the carers, the foster carers, the adoptive parents, any of the adults that were around these children were often holding on to their own trauma from their past that was impacting on their relationships. So I then shifted into working with adults. I occasionally still work with children. I keep a little special space in my heart for working with children. I don't think I would ever stop that. But I now predominantly work with women who have been carrying around that narrative of trauma, often unspoken, often not knowing how to describe it, often not knowing how to safely say what they've experienced in the past. And I actually guide them now to help them not discover this new person, but rediscover themselves, rediscover the self that is actually, underneath, is layered underneath all these trauma experiences, so that actually there's a liberation of the self that comes through, so that women are actually, stepping into every part of their lives with the I am. I am confident, I'm courageous, I'm strong, I'm calm, I am whatever that description is for themselves, rather than I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or what if people find out I'm not good enough, and what if people find out this is how I feel. So that's been a significant part of my work now for, I would say, about 13, 14 years. So yeah. So I've worked with a lot of women over that time.
What I find that what happens with trauma, and you touched briefly on it, that we carry that shame, right? We think we're on our own. What if someone finds out? Because there's a lot of shame attached to it. And what happens, and the women that I have spoken to over the years who have had traumas from childhood or even adulthood, that it's so hard to speak about it, and also that it's so hard to be authentically selves,
Mhm.
because the trauma has really stopped us from being who we are, because we're hiding in a shadow of our trauma and our pain, really. So speak a little bit more about that.
Well, your trauma strips your self-belief from you. And so, and also what it does is it makes you think that people aren't going to believe you. That that because I mean, especially with the women that I work with, where the predominant kind of trauma has been in childhood, it's been in young adulthood. So they will have heard and felt things that meant that you're not going to be believed, that your voice isn't powerful enough, that what your experience isn't, nobody's going to understand that. So when you're carrying that with you, it underpins the shame. Shame has to be underpinned by something, and it's underpinned by that not being believed, the self-blame. Well, if I'd have been different,
Yeah.
these are the things that I hear. If I'd have been different, then it wouldn't have happened to me. If I'd have just been quieter, then this wouldn't have happened to me. This wouldn't have been said to me. This wouldn't have been done to me. If I'd have just stayed hidden, that's what underpins shame. If I'd have just stayed hidden, if I wasn't who I am, then this wouldn't have happened. Now that's obviously a paraphrasing, but it's what every single child that I've ever worked with, and what every single woman that I've ever worked with has said about themselves.
Yeah.
That that
So
if they'd have just not been who they were, then this wouldn't have happened. And what I say to them is, actually, we need to get you to a place of feeling safe with who you are, because who you are isn't what caused somebody to do or be or behave in a way towards you that is abusive or critical or hurtful. It was about who they are. Who you are is not that story of trauma.
that's the thing about trying to be yourself when you have that fear. If, like
Mm.
I said, if you just wasn't yourself, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It is. I want to engage with you in the comments right now. If you have experienced something like that, or if you can relate, just put one in there, right? If you can relate to it, just put one. We don't have to explain anything. Just say one, right? Because you're not alone. You're not
Mhm.
alone. And I'm almost getting emotional right now listening to you, because not only I met a lot of women who've been through difficult traumas, and I have not seen them not being able to be themselves and shine their true light, but I've
Mhm.
been through something like that myself. And Helen, I know that this has also been part of your story. And
Mm.
just before we came on to this live, behind the scenes, you shared with me to say, I just feel so comfortable with myself, and I'm so happy just being me and alone, because you appreciate that, but it wasn't always the case. So tell us
Mhm.
a little bit more about your story.
Well, I as a young teenager, I was actually described by my good friends, my family, as kind of being very self-assured, very self-contained, but not in a bad way, not in a kind of trying to separate myself off kind of way, but kind of really safe and really kind of okay with who I was, and I was quite happy in myself. And then in my late teens, right through till I was 24, I was in 3 successive abusive relationships, which I thought had stripped that part of me away completely. But actually, what I noticed after after managing to get through those, I don't know where the resilience came from. I think the strength came from that young girl that had actually been very self-confident and self-assured. Was this ability to finally step away from those experiences. And I remember kind of finishing. I managed to do my first degree while still in this kind of abusive, this terrible abusive relationship, and turning up every day and having to pretend that I was this other person, having to hide what was happening to me, having to hide what was being said about me and done to me, and all of those things. And I remember kind of having to not be myself every day, not just at home, but actually with a cohort of people that I should have felt safe with. But I also just I wasn't myself. I wasn't this girl that I knew. And I remember, finally graduating and walking back from the university, and it was like a 4-mile walk home, and thinking to myself, the one thing that I am is incredibly self-reflective, always have been. But thinking to myself, I've managed to do something for me, not for anybody else. In spite of and despite of everything, in spite of having to show up every day and not be me, in spite of being told that me isn't good enough, that this person that I am is not worthy enough, I still have managed to show up and do something for me. And it was that knowledge that made my mindset shift to, God, if I've managed to do this for me now, then I need to continue to be me. And I'm not going to have anybody else tell me that I can't be me. And I remember getting home. I had a lodger at the time. I asked for his help in getting all the stuff out of the house. It was my home. And I'll never forget his presence in being able to help me do that. And then sitting with my dad a little while afterwards, kind of explaining to him everything that had happened. And to a degree, I wouldn't have told my dad everything because he was a sensitive soul. And he said, "Do you need a cigarette and a vodka?" It was kind of like his kind of, and I was like, "It's a bit early in the day, Dad," a bit early in the day. But I just remember this kind of, this then acceptance that I didn't need to be anything other than who I am. I'm not saying it was immediate change. Of course it's not. It's taken quite a few years, after that point to reconnect with that young girl that was self-confident, that was self-assured, that was happily, in her own imagination and creativity, and to feel safe with me. And that's ultimately what we should feel. So yes, I shout it from the rooftops. I love myself. I feel safe with who I am. Yeah. I feel that, healing happens in safe relationships, but the safe relationship is with you. Yeah. That's where it happens.
And I find that once we have been beaten down or told us we're not good enough, we've been abused in some way and experienced trauma, finding that self-love can be really, really challenging. And to really give yourself that love and appreciation, because that self-worth usually goes out completely out of the window after you have been through something as difficult as that. Tell us a little bit more. How can women find that magic moment, as you did, to reconnect with themselves and their self-worth after trauma?
I would say that the first thing that we have to do, and anybody watching this, and I know the first thing that my any woman that's been working with me would say equally is to bring that awareness back to yourself, and to start looking at yourself in not the labels of everything else, but not the labels of I'm a mom, I'm a professional, I'm this and I'm that. Look at kind of, who am I and who do I actually want to become? And so there's a real exploration. Get curious. Actually, I'm all about playfulness and curiosity in therapy. That become playful with yourself, and become curious with the person that you are, with the woman that you are. And once you start to have that awareness of, well, I am courageous. I may not be as courageous as I want to be right now, but I am courageous. I am strong. I am loving. And what you do is you start to come home to yourself. Trauma is all about coming home to you. Trauma recovery, rather, is all about coming home to you. Coming home to yourself. We all have, I'm a bit of a doll person, so we all have this little one inside us, right? And when you start coming home to her and bringing her into your heart as well, then you're responding to all the parts of you that have been hurt. And only you can bring that love and dignity and respect back to yourself. So you get to ask yourself, who am I? But actually, who do I also want to become?
Yeah.
And that's, and you start to shift into that, yeah, I can be compassionate to myself. And compassionate isn't about, self-pity. And it's not, because often, that's the question that I get asked. Well, isn't self-compassion self-pity? No, of course it's not. Because with compassion, you have common humanity. When you have a common humanity with what your little one, whatever age that she was, that went through the trauma that she experienced, once you have compassion for her, you're having compassion for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I love you. Give me goosebumps. It's such a deep and powerful conversation. And like I said, for anyone watching this, please share it, because what we don't know is the demons that people are battling with behind the scenes, the fears that they have to open up to other people. And you may not know, this might be your best friend, this may be your mother, this may be your sister that's going through something, but you don't even know. And the struggle inside, it could feel really, really lonely. So I encourage people to share this live, because I think someone needs to stumble across this message for their life to be changed.
And I remember absolutely, and I remember the first person that I spoke to, it was before my dad and before my lodge. It was actually my friend Nicola, who was in university with me. Incredibly supportive. She's remained my friend through life. She's my soul sister. We're connected on this, on this level of sisterhood, really. And I remember telling her and actually finding the words, because finding the words to say, this is what I'm experiencing, is so hard, because it just gets stuck, But even just one word of, even just one sentence of, I need some help, or this is what I'm feeling. And there's no wrong emotion, Every single emotion that you have is yours. And what they're telling you is that you need something. When you acknowledge that, when you listen to what that need is, well, I'm sad, well, what do I need? Well, I need some support, then you start to respond to yourself differently. You start to have this, rather than emotional fragility, you have this emotional agility, which is then a self-awareness. But even just the smallest, I remember a lady, if I can share, I remember a lady who had been kind of watching me for a while. She'd been watching me on Instagram and Facebook, and she'd thought about connecting, and she'd never spoken about her abuse before. Her abuse was in childhood, and she was having these memories and flashbacks, and she couldn't look at me. She made the connection with me. We got on a call, but she couldn't look at me. And I just said to her, it's okay. You don't have to look at me. Just being here right now tells me that you want things to change. You don't have to say anything. And we stayed in that space for an hour without her actually saying anything. And if you can be with someone who is showing how much pain they're in, but actually just you stay with it, then that's a massive amount of support too for them.
Wow. You make me cry. You make me cry, because that's so powerful, because the pain that we go through, it's so deep. It's not something that we can run away from, right? And we can't speak about it. you can't speak, and how much healing can happen by holding space for someone, and the huge transformation that can happen from healing from these traumas. So, Helen, you are a speaker at the upcoming Women Thrive Summit, and I guess your session comes with a bit of warning
It
that
comes with it. Yes.
right, that your life could change after
Yeah.
attending this talk.
I think it will. I think, you know, I know that people don't have to be in sessions in therapy to feel as though their life has changed when they hear somebody speaking their truth about who they are and what they've been through, and how you can heal and recover. And healing is a journey, it's not a destination. We're all continuing to heal, we're just all at very, very different stages of it. So now, you know, if you can keep that in mind, that everybody's still healing, you know, but we might all just be, it's a spectrum, you know. I'm still healing. I have moments when, you know, when I'm kind of, you know, when I something, you know, somebody says a word or somebody says something and I'm kind of, oh, you know, and I need to go back in and just give myself a hug, you know. Yeah. You know, it's, you know, remember that, you know, there's no pinnacle that people need to get to. Just, you know, if you take your first step, then you're changing your life. And that's a huge, huge step.
Yeah. And, you know, I always say that Women Thrive Summit, it is about women empowerment, but I always take this very holistic approach to business. Yes, originally, you know, we have topics on business and success and personal branding and all of that, which is so important. But I do feel like without the healing, the inner work, the removal of our traumas, or we can't really flourish
Mm.
as best versions of ourselves, you know, as best leaders, as best entrepreneurs, best members of our family and our society. And then we're really missing out. Not only we missing out, but the world is missing out on our light.
Mhm.
And that's a great shame, because the person you could be, the person you already are, first of all, the person you already are, but if you could step into the shoes of the person you already are and just be comfortable and confident about it, it will change your life and change other people's lives.
Yeah. Because when you step into your business and your entrepreneurial life and your professional world, safe in who you are, your business changes. I've seen that with women. I work with a lot of entrepreneurial women, a lot of other therapists actually as well, where, you know, they say to me, you know, I've been doing this and I've been doing this and I've been doing this, and I said, yeah, you're doing all of this, but where's you? You know, where are you? And they're like, oh, you know. And it's a real self-discovery therapy. I mean, everybody, there's this kind of common fallacy that therapy is for, you know, when you feel bad enough, or when you've when you're at your worst case scenario. It isn't. It's a beautiful act of self-care, and it's about you know, bringing that recognition back to you, and so that you're safe in who you are, and you can step safely and confidently into your business as that woman, not carrying around this story.
Yeah, magical, magical, magical. Thank you so, so much, ladies. If you're watching this live or replay, if you have any questions for Helen, please feel free to drop them in the comments. If you feel like you don't want to do that in the public forum, Helen, where can ladies get in touch with you?
Ladies, anybody can get in touch with me on in my Instagram DMs, in my Facebook DMs, but also you can email me, helen@helenbferguson.com. And, you know, if anybody wants to, you know, have some space on a free call, I have a free call link that people can, you know, just jump on and see, you know, where you are in your journey, and you know, what might be the best for you right now. So there's all, you know, Facebook, I'm Helen Ferguson. I have Helen Ferguson, which is my personal, and Helen Ferguson Therapy. I always get confused, which is my business, but they merge into one. So
Yeah.
I'm everywhere, really. That's kind of, I am everywhere.
Well, and you're here to serve, and I know
And I'm
your
here.
heart's,
Yeah.
we connected some time ago, and I've heard your story and just things that you have had to go through, and just how passionate you are about this
Mm.
work. And for me, it's just such an honor to have someone, as qualified and as amazing as a human being who is able to hold space for people who are truly struggling with something
Yeah.
like this, because it's so needed. I know how difficult, I know how difficult it is to find psychotherapy and professionals and those who actually have availability and time and do take on clients. And don't underestimate how difficult it is to find someone
Mm.
with a qualified profession like this, who are open to new clients. So, if you're considering, I would say just have that one-on-one call with Helen and just discover what might be your needs.
Mhm. Absolutely.
For those of you who haven't saved your ticket for the Women Thrive Summit, go ahead and join our waitlist. Our tickets will be released in January, so definitely go over to womenthrivesummit.com. Not only amazing Helen will be sharing her story and delivering a powerful and transformative session for our attendees, but there are 36 other amazing speakers at our summit next year in 2023. Women from all walks of life, women who have experienced some incredible things, have been through their own difficult journeys, and are able to help you now, whether it is business visibility, personal branding, marketing, or some things on healing, trauma work, so many modalities of spirituality and inner work that I invite you to not only join it, but also invite your friends to be part of this summit. Helen, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's always really hard to end our calls.
Oh, it's been. I mean, I've loved coming online today and being able to share. And if it's just, if it's reached one person who's sitting at home watching this, or sitting in their office watching this, or wherever they are, thinking that they're alone, and finally they realise they're not, then I think that's an amazing achievement just doing this today. And I can't wait to share more, in the Women Thrive Summit, and kind of share some more guidance and support on how women can move forward from this.
Yeah.
Rise beyond trauma. That's what it is.
Yes. And if there was one key message which Natalie just reaffirmed in the chat, was, having that safe relationship with yourself, coming back home to that little girl that you always were,
Yeah.
for whatever took place that brought you down. So come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all of you watching this today. Please make sure you do share this with someone who you don't know who may need this. And thank you, Helen, for just being so amazing and transparent and here to serve and support our audience. I appreciate you.
You're more than welcome, and the appreciation is reciprocated tenfold.
Thank you so much, all. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I look forward to seeing you at the Women Thrive Summit happening in March. Take care for now. Bye-bye.